you use descriptive science, they all should have the same grade. And they all will be interested if you know their background. Now, if a kids are brought to school usually 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
If their background, say, is, you know what Dutch boy white lead paint is? White lead paint makes the building very white, but the lead poisons the brain. So many kids are brought to school with a brain without as much connection, and they get failure. But you should give a kid a physical first before they go to school, a blood test to make sure there's no deficiency of calcium, minerals.
That's so true, yeah.
They don't know a fucking thing. That's why I try to say the finger touching is tough, because the automobile people are just trying to change your car, and it's hard. So here we're trying to change the whole system, and I didn't want you to think it's Fresco's ego that's pushing the system. Do you understand what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah. I like this information. I find that very interesting. Like notions that if kids go to school, it would be logical for them to get like a physical, you know, to know everything. Yeah, totally.
Then their reaction to verbal behavior and what they retain. Now, if a kid's going to school and you run movies of naked kids, and the eye is always on the pecker, it knows that they have been brought up to feel, gee, my pecker is small, the other guy's pecker is large, and they're one track. So you photograph eye motions, and while they're looking at a movie, you can tell a potential child molester. He's not bad, he's brought up differently. So then you know a guy that's a serial killer. You know about what he looks like, a guy cutting a cat in half, this grin on his face. You know, you photograph the guy while he's looking, and you know how to handle that kid. You don't wait till he kills 3 women. You know what I mean? You can detect human potential in the very early stages, and not to judge them. Not because if you were brought up there, you'd be a child killer, or whatever. You understand? There's no bad or good people. That's very hard to understand. There are people brought up in Germany that hate Jews. There are people brought up in France that hate Greeks. But there are people that hate everybody. And you have to know why, because sometimes the parents spank them if they don't do their homework. So homework becomes associated with pain. And they learn because they get hit if they don't do their homework. That's the wrong way. You read to kids and close the book at the most interesting part. You say, if you learn to read, you can find out what happened. Give them a reason to want to read. Don't teach them math, anything, without giving a kid a reason. You take a branch, you make a rooftop, and it bends, and you don't want the roof to bend. You see, in the old days, they made roofs out of wood like that, with a Y-shaped branch here to hold up the wood. And then when it rained, the rain filled us up and dripped on the guy. So he pushed on the roof. First he used to go off and sweep the water off. Then he pushed up with a stick. And then he said, look, I'm going to leave the stick there. And the roof was like that. And the water ran off, so it dripped on that night. Nobody sat down and starts with a point of the roof. You understand? The brain can't work that way. It learns slowly over many years, and they think this guy designed the house so the water would go off the roof. That's all bullshit.
Totally.
Very hard for people to know. This is the way they used to do it in the old days. They didn't have material that could span all of this, so they put these poles in there. And when they design a state building, they still do that today. They shouldn't do that, because the new materials give you a new range in architecture. You still make your buildings and libraries look like ancient Rome. It's not using the modern materials. Airplanes today have wings that stick out 100 feet, and there's no struts, wires, or braces. Because they now can make new materials. If they put all that shit on airplanes today, you'd have to leave out 50 passengers. You know what I mean? So you must learn how to respect new language and new material. The old language that we learned in school keeps us apart from our kids. So if you have kids today and they learn new things, they're going to leave you when they're 18 because you're obsolete. Keep up with new journals, new ideas. Don't ever say, this is a great house, the one I live in. It's great for the time you live in.
Stagnation.
But you get conditioned by society. See, all your life, if I run over by a Mack truck, people revert back to the old system unless you think and talk about it at meetings. You keep moving forward. But then you have to include more people. And you make movies showing all this. That is not perfect. It's just better than nothing. So you have to move people forward. But people say, what if I like the old things the way they were? Get on, move on. Because everybody gets attached.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yes.
It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy.
Remember, I don't know if you know this, did you ever open a coconut? There are 3 soft spots on it.
Yeah.
If you open it, there's a vacuum. So the coconut milk can stay for 3 months or more. When you open it, it's still fresh. That's where vacuum came from. The coconut. But if you split a coconut, so it looks like this, and you're down the stream picking up water and drinking it. If your fingers are apart, the water spills out, so you learn to hold them together, unless you're not thirsty. Yeah. But you hold them together, and if you see a coconut like that, it is not unlike this. So you pick up a coconut. So the drinking cup comes from experience with a half-open coconut. Because your hands suggest that. But if you're shoveling sand on the beach and there's a seashell nearby, a big one, you might pick it up and move the sand. You understand?
That's
but it has to be right nearby.
Yes.
So any kid who's doing this will see a shell and pick it up because it's enough association. But if he uses a shell to move sand, he's bending down all the time, so later it takes a long time to connect the stick to the shell and bind it. It's called a shovel. But they don't sit down right away and put the stick on.
Yeah.
It's after they're bending down a lot. You know what the Watusis are in Africa? No. They're very tall, black natives. Then there's the pygmies, you know what they are? The small black people that live in another tribe. And the pygmies have a shovel with a long handle, and the Watusis have a shovel with a short handle.
Yes.
And they're always bent over, and the little ones are never bent over. And it took 50 years for them to change shovels. You know what I mean? People don't. A soup spoon should be turned a little bit like that. Because you have to turn the spoon. And a fork should have one end, not very sharp, but sharper than the other end, so you can cut a potato in half with the end of the fork. You understand?
Yeah.
But people don't seem to look at what they have. They don't look at it. If you make a glass with a very broad opening, and you try to drink water to spill out on both sides. If the glass is a certain size, there's no side spill. And if you have a saucer, it looks like this, and you have a cup of coffee in there, if there's coffee, it's going to drip on you.
Yes.
If there's coffee in there. But if you have 3 ridges in the saucer that keep the cup up off the bottom, you don't have drip.
Yes.
But the cup would have to be on top of these 3 ridges. So you have to ask yourself, you have to look at everything.
What I find very interesting about this information is that these solutions are actually very simple. You know, you just keep thinking ahead, and I don't understand why people would be like.
Because they're brought up rigidly.
Yeah, totally.
A hammer is used to drive nails. So I asked a kid, what else can you do with a hammer? I don't know. You can kill a person. You can make sparks with it. You can rock. You can start a fire. So don't look at the hammer as just a hammer. What else can you do with it?
Interesting.
So kids are not brought up that way. That's a cup, that's a glass, that's a bottle.
My father brought me up like that.
You can hit a guy in the head.
My father always said you must always use a tool for what it's
I look
meant.
at things in relation to, for example, if I'm lost in the woods, I don't know where north or south is, but I know moss grows on the north side of a tree. That tells me where the south is.
What grows on the north side?
Moss.
Oh, moss. Okay.
Moss or fungi.
Yeah.
And which side? On the south side?
North.
On the north side.
Where the sun doesn't shine.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you got eyeglasses, you can start a fire with the eyeglasses. Have no matches, you can start a fire.
You have to die.
Eyeglasses can start a fire if you know how to focus. And the thicker the glasses, the better they are for starting a fire. So I'd rather have a magnifying glass with me if I'm on a lost somewhere.
Instead of matches.
Yes, matches get wet.
Oh yeah.
This can always be used to start a fire if you've got someone.
Yeah.
So when the ship is sinking, they say women and children first. I say, does anybody know anything about navigation? Get on the boat.
Yeah.
Do you know how to catch fish in the open sea? Get on the boat. Then women will go. But children can't do a fucking thing. They're parasitic. Women are usually parasitic because they'll die on the boat. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all normal conclusions are almost all very detrimental.
Yes.
Can you understand?
And you always make it depending on the situation, and that dictates the decision. Yeah. That's very intelligent. Yeah.
But so the word intelligent is an old word.
Okay.
Remember an intelligent electrical engineer 75 years ago couldn't get a job. So is he intelligent today, or was he intelligent then?
Yeah.
So the word doesn't tell you anything. An intelligent person sounds like finance, intelligent. No such thing. It's an ongoing process. The more you learn, the more you change. It keeps going. It never comes to the man's intelligent or the man's stupid. Is he as stupid as he used to be 10 years ago? No. So the word stupid, intelligent, really, I have to use that language in my writing, otherwise people wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about. Whenever I write, people don't know what I'm talking about. So my books have some old language. Otherwise I couldn't get to people. So if you want to get to people, start with something like a lens, what it can do and all that. Help them understand. Give them the tools to think with, and tell them those are not the final tools. They're the best you know of up to now. What do you think? You understand? Yeah. So when you're a college graduate, people think they got that PhD and they're now smart. They're not. They're limited. Can you understand that? Okay. So there's no such thing as smart people or dumb people. There are different people with different tools. And the more tools you have, the more you have to think with.
That's very good. So what word should I use instead of intelligent?
The person who's gathering more information, he knows more about electronics than he knew before, but he's never there. He's always learning more. You can't make the best camera. For example, in the future, your camera will not only light the face. If you say, I'm photographing human, I want major contrast. So you talk to the camera.
That's good face recognition already, yeah.
You have to make adjustments today. Like in movie studio, there's a guy up on top that moves the lens, depending on where the actors are, or the microphone. In the future, the microphone will change its parabola, so it gets your voice or his voice 10 feet away, and the lights will move as you walk for the optimal photographic thing. But nobody sits down and says, what is this all about? They can't farm unless you free them from the trap of thinking the lights have to be adjusted. No, they have to follow a code of where the person is. The sound system has to focus. You know what I mean? If you shape this a certain way, you can focus sound at one point. If it's another way, it's further away. So they say that Galileo invented the telescope. It's not true. What he found, I forget that's not a pen, is it? Okay. Galileo found natural glass with a slight curve. It's called obsidian. It's a slighter curve than the, and when he picked it up, he noticed the sand appeared larger if it had a curve. So he cut this off, and he learned later how to shape this, and then he put two of them inside of a tube, and it made it larger. But nobody can sit down and invent a telescope. Do you understand? Something in nature, something you see, lightning or something, suggests something. But with no experience, if you just live in a little town in the south and never leave, you pick up the values of that town.
It's true.
So it is either by accidents or by mistakes.
Accidents and mistakes.
Accidents and mistakes that bring technological.
You know what a metallurgist is?
Yes.
A guy that mixes different metals together to see how strong it would be. If he mixed nickel and titanium and he bent it so that the piece of metal looked like this first.
What is the ratio between
He
nickel
bent it, and then he left it on the table near a heat lamp, and it straightened out. That was the memory material. He did not sit down and invent a material.
How old is this invention?
How old? About 32 years.
32 years. Is er zo met wat ketten van?
So it's nickel and titanium?
Yeah.
What's the ratio between the two?
50-50.
Okay.
But if you design
That's
it
easy.
40-60, it responds at different temperatures. But if you want it to respond to room temperature, 50-50.
Is that in mass?
The mixture.
In mass, not in volume. Is it 50-50 in mass?
Kilograms, 50-50.
50% nickel and 50% titanium mixed together, melted together, and stirred.
But is it the weight or the volume? How do they work?
Well, if you do it on Earth, there's a tendency for the heavier metal to settle on the bottom.
Yeah.
If you do it in outer space,
Yeah.
there's no gravity. So space can be used to manufacture more balanced materials. But that would depend. You know, on Earth we're limited. There's certain things that don't work out. And people don't know what the problem is. When a man steals, they put him in jail. If he's a victim of culture, it's not his fault. Say you hate Germans because you're brought up in a country that was abused by Germans. So you hate Germans and you think the other people are naturally bad. No, they're brought up differently than you. They're not bad. Nobody's good or bad. It's hard to understand. Because all your movies are about good and bad people. Nice people, kind people, and mean people. Well, that's why you say he's no good, he's bad. Because he was brought up with less information than you. Do you understand? But if you bring up people with lots of information, they're more apt, not always. Depends on how much neural lag there is. So if he lives with normal people, and he only associates with normal people, you pick up normal values. But if you guys meet every 3 weeks and keep sharing these ideas, you keep it alive. If the chief guy in you dies, people tend to revert back. So, if I fly over a village with straw huts, just the roof, top view, I know that it's a primitive society. If I fly over a city with every building a different shape, I know it's me for myself. If it's geometrical cities, worked out with geometry and irrigation, and I know that it's civilized more than this shit.
You said when you see this, then you know you're for yourself?
I don't have to go down and study the people. I can tell by their cities that they're primitive. So people always say, what do you think of Germany? Well, I can't say it's terrible, because they get mad at me. They want me to say it's a lovely place. I like the German people who are asking new questions. But I said, do I like the Germans? No more than I like the Swedes, because they're all living their own little culture, unless they're coming out of their culture.
True.
You understand?
Yeah, we've got to become global citizens. We must
If I go to
identify.
Africa, the guy's nose is very wide. He says, how do you like our African nose? Well, I can't comment on that. You know what I mean? If everybody has a nose that wide and that high, that's beauty. If that you brought it, gosh, don't you believe there's real beauty? No. I believe if I was brought up in a land where people cut their skin to show their masculinity, or they're brought up in Spain where they turn bulls loose in the street, do you know about that? Yeah. And the bulls kill and injure a lot of people, but that's macho, a male.
He's a hero.
Yeah. So I know why they do it, and I know that the culture is closed. And we don't want any established. Do you know what the word established means?
Yeah.
A fixed culture. We want an emergent culture. You know what I mean?
Changing.
Yeah, there's no fixed values. Elevators, buildings are the best you know up to now. And in the future, the public has to be conditioned to accept change. That's why they build old buildings to look like it used to look for your mother. Well, that was good enough then, but today you gotta move.
Of course not.
If you don't move, your culture will be left behind.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So I have no. People say, "What's the ideal city?" I don't know. I just know the best I know up to now, but I don't say that's ideal. Otherwise, it'll be crippling the kids. They'll all build fresco cities. That's the wrong thing to do. Take it from there. Move forward. That's why I say we're not civilized yet. We're not well adjusted until all the nations can live together. And
Your life will be richer if people are not so bigoted and nationalistic.
well, you have to undo it for them.
Yeah,
Help them out.
because there's much more variety and your life will be much richer. Yeah.
It's up to you how much work you do. If you can get mad at people and start beating them up, that's not the way. If you beat up Filipinos, doesn't teach them anything. War doesn't teach people anything. Just makes a lot of money for the munition people that sell munitions.
For the parasites.
Yeah, war is terrible. It's a failure of nations. And people say, I regret that I only have one son to give to the army. I wish I had three. You know, they're all fucked up badly.
They don't know anything about how they became that way. What kind of deprivation they had.
Willst du das Wort nicht mal lösen?
Das ist selber gezeichnet. Very nice. I hope so. I'll put it on my computer and then I'll see how much.
Sure. Yeah, you contact me if it's not a good
Okay.
video. Send it back.
Went into bumps all the time on the road. Change the bumps on the road. How'd you do that?
Sorry, it's the first time. The next one will be better.